Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Caregiver Solution Info Show. I'm Marcia Teele, and I'm your host, and I'm so glad that you are here. It's the end of the year. This is a time where, it's really hard because we look back at the previous year that we've just gone through, and a lot of us tend to think about what happened, what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could have done, what we should have done. And for caregivers, that's especially hard because caregivers tend to be really tough on themselves. But I want you to know, if you're a caregiver and you've been caring for someone who can't care for themselves, it is a really, really tough job that you've probably not been trained to do, and you had to learn on the job. It's something that it's a blessing to be able to be a caregiver, although at times it does not feel like a blessing. And sometimes you think, gee, I didn't do it right, or I didn't do enough. And I want you to know that if you did the best that you knew how to do, it was enough. Sometimes it's not the hard stuff that we think that is something that's going to help somebody. It's not something that's really that important, like making sure that they have a shower or making sure that, they brush their teeth. Sometimes the most impact you can give to somebody who has dementia is a smile. Sometimes it's a pat on the back. Sometimes it's just saying, hey, good job. Sometimes it's just holding their hand and giving them a hug. It is so important for caregivers to look back and say, look, I did what I knew what to do. And if we give every situation, even terrible situations, hard situations like caregiving, if we give enough time and we trust, usually things will turn out for the best. So this is a time of reflection, looking back at the previous year, looking forward to the new year. It's also a time where we want to find joy and peace and happiness, and we want to find that thing that makes us say, we did good, right? And so we're going to be talking today on this show to lots of people. Well, actually, we're going to hear from lots of people, and you'll understand that in just a moment. And so we're going to be talking about reflecting on our situation, reflecting on our caregiving, reflecting on what happened in our life and how we feel about it. And so my first guest today, her name is Helen Bergman, and she is a former caregiver for her mom. And she's joining me from her home in Port St. Lucie. And there she is on the screen. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Marcia. So nice to see you.
It's so great to see you, too. Thanks for being on the program today. I've been looking forward to seeing you again. It's been a long time. And I just introduced you as a former caregiver for your mom. And you had an awesome mom. I actually knew her. And you were, in charge of taking care of her for a long time. And you had her at home with some help, in which most people start out that way, having some aides come into the home and help that person because, you were working. But something scary happened while your mom was under the care of some caregivers at home. Can you tell us what happened?
Sure. We were lucky. We were blessed that we found a wonderful caregiver who lived with her. And I think we did what most families did. We're not putting her into an assisted living. No matter what, she's staying home. And the caregiver got up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. My mother figured out how to undo the new locks and decided to go for a little walk in a community of 18,000 condos.
Wow.
And the caregiver went to look for her, came home, got ready to call me, and here comes my mother and says, I forgot my key. Okay. And that was when I called my brother and I said to him, we now have a safety issue. And we have to take this a step further, which was the one thing we always promised we would never do. But we were very, very lucky to find Arden Courts where everybody felt comfortable with the care that she got.
So your mom had some dementia and she was a little bit confused at times, right? But your mom was
Well,
a very happy lady and she loved people. So I can understand why she wanted to go, go, go.
she was like a little bunny rabbit. She just went. And even in the later stages of dementia, not at the very end, but more towards the middle, if somebody came up to her and said, hi, this smile, she didn't know them, smile would go on her face. Good morning, how are you? It was just so ingrained in who she was. But I learned so many lessons, like sometimes it's okay to lie. Um, we had to figure out a way to get her out of her condo. And years before that, the condo had termites. So I came to her and said, Mom, the termites are back. We have to move you into a senior hotel until we can get rid of them. And she said, okay. And the first 2 weeks, she kept saying, when can I go home? After that, she forgot about it. And she was safe.
So you made that decision for her safety to have her go into a memory care community, a memory care assisted living, although you promised that you would never do that. So how did that make you feel, and how did it go when you took her there? Were you frightened? Was she frightened? How did that go?
Oh, yeah, she was really frightened. Here's what happened. You were there, so you know. My brother and my sister-in-law and I walked in with Mom. We thought this was going to take hours. And so my poor sister-in-law just went to the bathroom right off the lobby. And you came out of your office and put your arm around my mother and said, Anita, we've been waiting for you all day. And then you walked her into the back. She never looked back, never looked at us. She was so busy talking to you. And here comes my sister-in-law and she goes, where's Mom? And we went, in the back. It took less than 10 minutes. And then she thought she was like the mayor of the community. She was fairly high functioning when we put her in, which was our major concern, that she was too high functioning, but we couldn't take that safety risk again. We just couldn't do it. So I felt terrible because I was breaking a promise that I had made, but I felt good because I knew we had her in the right place. We had gone to many other places. I dragged my poor aunt around with me to look at all these other places, but this was the only place that was totally Alzheimer's. It wasn't a little unit in the corner of a building, and she could walk anywhere she wanted.
So after a little while and given her some time to acclimate, it was comes up to your first visit. And I
No,
remember you came to visit her and you said to me, Marcia, will you go in the back with me to meet her because I'm scared of what she might say to me. I'm afraid she's going to hate me, right? I remember I'm afraid she's going to hate
I
me.
was terrified.
Okay, so what happened? You can tell the story.
See, I hope I can tell her without crying. So we walked in the back, and my mother was at the end of the hall talking to some people, her friends, her new best friends. And remember, she had had a caregiver for 2.5 years before she moved in. And so she sees me, she comes up to me, she gives me a kiss, and she says, I'll be right back. And she walked back down and walked outside one of the side doors into the totally enclosed and safe courtyard area. And I started to cry. And I said to you, that's the first time in 2.5 years she has walked through a door by herself. So all of my fear of, oh my God, I'm locking her up, turned into, wow, I actually gave her freedom. And that just kind of helped me go through that whole thing, because it was like I was giving her this gift back to her, and I couldn't see it until it happened.
That's a beautiful story, and I want to thank you for sharing it. Yes, I was there, but I love how you tell it. It's, from your heart. And the whole purpose, of having you tell your story is because we're talking today about things that happen in our life as caregivers and things that we feel like, we didn't do right or we needed to do differently or that we're afraid of. But yet there's blessings that can come out of all of those situations. And it was a blessing that your mom was able to gain her freedom back and be who she was in a community rather than just be with one person at home all the time. And many blessings,
Which she
came of that.
needed.
Yes.
She needed that.
Hmm.
But if I could give one thing that I learned over all those years, and oh my Lord, this is hard, um, for caregivers, is somehow you have to maintain a sense of humor, which is incredibly hard to do. I had a friend of mine who was going through the same thing with her mother at the same time. And she called me one night and she said, she and her husband went to visit her mother. And when her husband went in the kitchen, her mother said to her, he's a very nice man. I used to date him. And of course, we got hysterical laughing. And it wasn't, and I said to her on the phone, I'll never forget, I said, if anybody's tapping our lines, they're going to think we're so cruel laughing. But it was just one of those moments that you could laugh. You had someone to share that with, and you have to look for that. Otherwise, it's really going to be hard.
Absolutely. So we have to find the joy. We're talking about finding joy. We're talking about finding peace. And obviously, you found some peace knowing that your mom was happy, knowing that your mom was safe, knowing that your mom could go outside at will and not, get lost. And so out of all of the things that happen, the bottom line is it all worked out and there were blessings. And this is what we're talking about today. And I am so happy to have you and to let you tell your story to everybody because you're just a great daughter. You were a great caregiver. Your mom was awesome. And I was
It was
privileged
pretty
to
amazing.
I was privileged to know her for 11 years, I think it was.
Yep, she
Yeah.
was there 11 years.
Yeah, she was great. So I want to thank you so much for coming. I wish you all the best. Coming up, Happy New Year a little early, and you take care. And mwah,
Marcia, thank you. I love you.
love you too. Okay. And now we're going to take a little quick break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with more reflections on caregiving. We'll be right back.
Feelings of depression, isolation, and frustration are common among persons living with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's common among those who care for them, too. It takes a lot of patience and courage. It also takes knowing when you can no longer do it alone. At Arden Courts, memory care is all we do. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Don't let guilt keep you from making the right decision. Visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. We're talking today about reflecting as caregivers. What we're talking about is really good for everyone, but especially caregivers who have a really tough job of caring for somebody, especially with Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. And we look at what we've done. We kind of second guess ourselves sometimes, I should have done this or I could have done that better. But I just want to encourage you that if you do your best, you do what you know how to do, then it's good. It's good enough because there's always support out there to help you, and be proud of what you did do, and don't think so much about what you could have done, because it's just a blessing to be a caregiver, and just being a caregiver is a blessing to the person that you're caring for. A lot of times caregivers reflect and they don't talk about their feelings so much, like our previous guest Helen just did. Sometimes they want to put it into words. And so some caregivers have written down poems, they've written songs about their feelings, and that's their way of reflecting on their situation. So for the rest of the show, I'm going to be sharing with you some of these reflections that are in prose or in poems that caregivers and other healthcare professionals have written regarding the caregiving experience. And I hope that you enjoy some of these. This song for caregivers is what it's called, was written by Lynn Marie Daniels in September of 2019. And she was a caregiver for a friend of hers. She was also paid to do that by the family. And she was a very gracious, compassionate caregiver for many, many years, took care of her friend. And she wrote this song. I don't know the melody, so I'm going to read the lyrics to you as she gave it to me. We had dreams and family plans, a roadmap for our lives, but unexpected changes and new demands has my world turned around. There's no road for me to find. A loved one's memory is fading. So many questions I fear for what is waiting. Nothing's the same, confusion building, and one day they won't know my name. Lord, you said you would always walk beside me, but there's only one set of footprints in the sand. I'm holding you like a mother holds a child. I'm holding you, arms held tight and never tire. I have carried you in the rain and carried you in all your pain. My strength will get you through, for I am the one who is carrying you. Who is this person sitting across from me? It's so hard when we remember how they used to be. Feelings running wild with anger, frustration, and guilt. An emotional roller coaster, never ending. That's how I felt. Wanting to run away as the time passes by, tired of the unknown, alone, and crying out, why? It's hard saying goodbye a little each day to the loved one of mine who is slipping away, never to return and never to stay. And I think that's a beautiful poem, song that Lynn wrote, expressing her feelings as caregivers need an outlet. So if you're a caregiver and you feel frustration or you're tired and you have depression, and it's really great to go to a support group or have a good friend to talk to or a professional to talk to. But if you are a person who really doesn't want to do that or can't do that, then write out your feelings. Get a journal. Write down what you feel. write down anything just as it comes, let it flow. And it really will help you. It will really give you a release. And so I want to thank Lynn for letting me share her poem on the show today. Another poem is called Grace. And this one I will preface by telling you that the word grace has a double meaning in this poem. And I will explain it at the end if you don't catch on to what it is. But this is called Grace. And here goes. I'm a caregiver. I give care. I give what I can and take what I can bear. It wasn't a choice. No one signs up for this. I get by with grace. I'm the wife, but grace is his. Go with grace, and grace will lead you home. Go with grace. With grace, you're not alone. Grace will help you. You will see. Grace will do for you what I can't do for me. Grace shows up when needed, never early, never late. Without grace, this caregiving task is more than I can take. Grace is amazing. I shouldn't complain, but when you are drowning, you don't need more rain. Grace will never leave me, even when you're gone. Grace will remain at home in me, strong and safe and calm. So go with grace, and grace will lead you home. Go with grace. With grace, you're not alone. Grace will help you. You will see. Grace will do for you what I can't do for me. Now, Grace in this poem is a person. Grace is the private duty caregiver, and the poem is from the perspective of the wife for her husband. And grace means that she's talking about the person, Grace, who's helping her husband, but also grace meaning that the grace that she gets from the help helps her too. And so this is sometimes what spouses feel. You know, they can't do for the spouse, but sometimes a person, a private duty, can do for them. And sometimes it works out better that way. So the lesson here is if you're overwhelmed and you're a caregiver and you're getting frustrated and you're getting upset and angry and you're getting to the end of your rope and you haven't gotten help at home to help you with your situation of caregiving, then go ahead and start getting the help that you need. You can get respite care. You can have someone come into your home. You can actually have your loved one go to a day center for them to be cared for in a good, safe, stimulating environment. But the point is get some help, because grace can help you, the caregiver, but grace can help you also by giving you that break and that peace of mind and that little bit of help that you need. And I wrote this poem in July of 2011. So I hope you enjoyed that one. We're going to take a break. We're going to be giving away a free book, The 36-Hour Day. If you don't know about that book, you might want to get a piece of paper and a pencil so you can write down how to get it. So we'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
At this time, I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Court's Memory Care Community. Arden Courts has about 50 memory care communities, assisted living, all across the United States, and 10 of them here in Florida. They are a great resource for caregivers, not just because they take care of a person with memory loss, but they help the caregiver too, the family caregiver, helping them to understand, hold their hand, literally, figuratively. And today they'd like to help you if you're a caregiver and you don't have this book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's a wonderful resource for caregivers. It talks about dementia. It gives you all kinds of definitions, tips, challenging situations that can be resolved. It's a great book. If you would like this book, it's absolutely free, just for the asking. All you have to do is send an email with your name, your address, and your telephone number to delray at arden-courts.com. That's D-E-L-R-A-Y, delray at arden-courts.com. Tell them that you heard about this free offer on the Caregiver Solution Info Show, and they'll be happy to mail this book right to you. It's a wonderful thing to have. If you know somebody that would benefit from this, then go ahead and request it for them and give that to them. They'll be really happy that you did. So today we're talking about reflecting. We're talking about a lot of caregiving, that people are giving out their emotions and talking about blessings that come out of their caregiving, even through the pain, even through the tough times. Since we're doing poems and prose the rest of the show regarding that, and I just did the book giveaway for Arden Courts, I have to share this while I'm at it. It's called We've Got You Covered. Baby ducks being pelted by rain looking for their mother. Mama duck came, expanding her wings. Mama duck clucked, I've got you covered. Brave soldier fighting on the front line. Bullets gone, looking for another. His buddy appeared just in time. Get down, I've got you covered. Young girl driving her car, checking out boys in the rear view mirror. Had a wreck before going too far. The insurance man said, don't worry, you're covered. Little boy in bed with the flu needs only liquids and his mother. He gets chilled. She knows what to do. Pulls up the blanket. Shh, I've got you covered. Husband of 60 years has memory loss. Stressed and frail, the wife feels smothered. Her doctor recommends Arden Courts Memory Care. We can help. That's what we do. Arden Courts has you covered. So just had to share that one with you. We are so blessed in so many ways to be a caregiver, because we don't know what blessings that we can really impact on another person. And sometimes it's just the little things. So for the next couple minutes, I want to talk about the actual caregiver taking care of the person they're caring for, but what it's like for the person they're caring for. There have been some poems and some prose written from the dementia person's point of view. Some of it from the actual patient and some from others that are putting themselves in the shoes of a person with Alzheimer's. But this thing I'm going to read to you now is 10 requests from an Alzheimer's patient. In other words, these are things that the healthcare professionals feel that a person that has dementia would want from their caregiver. So these are just some tips that I'd like to share with you. If you're a caregiver, you might find some of them helpful to you. The first one is a person with Alzheimer's would want to tell you, be patient with me. Remember, I am the helpless victim of an organic brain disease which is out of my control. Number 2, talk to me. Even though I cannot always answer you, I can hear your voice, and sometimes I comprehend your words. The third thing an Alzheimer's patient would want us to know is be kind to me. For each day of my life is a long and desperate struggle. Your kindness may be the most special and important event of my day. Number 4, consider my feelings, for they are still very much alive within me. The fifth thing a person with dementia might tell a caregiver, if they could express it, would be, treat me with human dignity and respect, as I would have gladly treated you if you had been the victim. Number 6, remember my past, for I was once a healthy, vibrant person, full of life, love, and laughter, abilities, and intelligence. Number 7, remember my present. I am a fearful person, a loving husband, father, grandfather, uncle, dear friend who misses my family very much. Number 8, remember my future. Though it may seem bleak to you, I am always filled with the hope of tomorrow. Number 9, a request from an Alzheimer patient might be, pray for me, for I am a person who lingers in the mists that drift between time and eternity. Your presence may do more for me than any other outreach of compassion you could extend to me. And lastly, number 10, love me. And the gifts of love you give will be a blessing from which will fill both our lives with light. So those are 10 requests from an Alzheimer's patient made up by people that are caregivers and professionals that know what things are really good for a patient with Alzheimer's, what they need, what you as a caregiver can provide to them. I'd like to read this other poem to you. This one is something that might resonate with a lot of you as caregivers. In the beginning of the caregiving journey, and someone starts with the symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia, some form of dementia, one of the first things to go is their short-term memory loss. They forget what they had for breakfast. They forget someone's name, but they still hang on to the memories that they had in the beginning. So you'll see that their memory loss starts from more current events and works its way backwards. But that's usually one of the first signs where people get confused, they misplace things, they don't remember some things. Sometimes as caregivers, we think we're getting the dementia because we're confused and we forget where we place things. But ours is usually just the stress of the caregiving. Stress does make caregivers feel like they're going crazy. They can't remember things. They just are confused. They walk into a room and forget what they're looking for. So if you're a caregiver and that's happening to you, then just know that you need to relax, take some time for yourself, de-stress, do whatever you need to do so you can be a better caregiver for that person you're caring for. Because believe it or not, how you're feeling can sometimes mirror to the person you're caring for. So if you're stressed out, that person that you're caring for becomes stressed out. If you're happy, they're happy. If you're upset and angry, guess what? They see that, and sometimes they just mirror that, and they become that too. So the better the caregiver you are as far as how you feel and your abilities and your attitude, and having that attitude of gratitude is really going to pay off for you in the long run. This poem is called I Can't Remember Your Name. And I wrote this poem after I visited a friend of mine who has dementia in a nursing home. I'm very successful, notable even, my life filled with fortune and fame. I've met people all over the world. You hug me, but I can't remember your name. We sit and talk, mostly I listen, as my attention starts to wane. I try so hard to figure things out, but I can't remember your name. I get frustrated with all your questions. Who, what, where? It's like a game. I don't want to play with you anymore because I can't remember your name. You decide when it's time to walk, to eat, to bathe. I'm in a box looking out, like a frame. I don't understand what you want me to do, and I can't remember your name. Finally, our visit is over. Your eyes are filled with pain. You said, I'll see you tomorrow, but I can't remember your name. I wish I could give you what you want. Somehow I feel that I'm to blame, but you love me and comfort me. So it really doesn't matter that I can't remember your name. And caregivers sometimes have to remember that. This is a poem I wrote from the point of view of the patient with dementia in a nursing home. And the point here is that it's okay, they can't remember your name, they can't remember who you are necessarily, they can't remember where you live, where they're from, but what they remember is that you're there. They remember your touch. They remember that you comfort them. They remember the feeling that you give them. They remember the love. And so when you're with someone with dementia, just love them. Just talk to them and give them love and time and attention. And don't worry about what they can remember. Don't worry about what they forget. It's really that not important in the long run. And if they can't remember your name, it's okay. They feel it. They feel it, and they know that you're with them, and they know that you are their person. And that's what's really important. So just take that. For good advice, sometimes we forget, and we want our person to remember. We try to get them to remember times that we've had together, and we do it more for us than for them. We want them to remember us, but you will always remember them in your heart when they're gone, and when they are gone, you will know that you made them feel good. Okay? So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a few more reflections on caregiving.
Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
We're back, and we are at the end of the year. This is the last week of the year, and this is when we're reflecting on everything that happened in this year, the good, the bad, the ugly, the blessings, and hopefully finding things that we can be grateful for. And so we're talking today about caregivers who find the blessing in the caregiving, because that's what it's all about. And so we've heard from an actual caregiver who joined us today to talk about her blessings that she received when she had to place her mom in a memory care. And she joined us by video. And then we've heard from other people that have written poems and songs expressing themselves through word, because that's sometimes the best way for caregivers to release what they feel. Now I'm going to share with you this poem was written by a man who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He went by the name Bud, and when he wrote this, he was 96 years old, living in a memory care community. And the reason I want to share this with you is because I want you to feel where Bud is at, being in a memory care, but yet, and being 96 years old, and yet being able to express himself even with his memory loss. And I find that this was very, very special. These poems were actually found in Bud's room when he passed away of Alzheimer's many years ago at the age of 96, 97. So this is Bud's poem. I am 96. Looking back, which I rarely do, I realize I could have and should have done much more with my life, which has been a very happy one nonetheless. I'm not running out of steam, but I am running out of life. Life, what a precious and amazing gift. I am 96. I have had many wonderful todays and yesterdays, but one day, as for all of us, I'll miss tomorrow. And there will be no regrets, only profound thanks for a great life. And I just thought that was an awesome thing to read, to have a memory impaired person to talk about how wonderful their life has been and still be able to express that. Bud loved the ladies, and so he wrote another poem about his lady friends and about his life, and I'll like to share that one with you too. It's called Then and Now, and then he subtitled it Memory. I have loved and been loved by 4 beautiful women, and then he names them. I loved the 4th as dearly as the others. For the life of me, at the present, I'm not remembering her name. It's hard to believe, but as much as I loved her, then, today, though, I can't remember her name. And so Bud was 96 when he wrote this, and he was sharing his feelings, but he knew that he had his memory loss, and yet he still attempted and successfully wrote his feelings out. So I love that, and Bud was a wonderful, wonderful person. There are other things that you may have heard about or read at some point from the perspective of a person with dementia. Now, that was Bud, and he was a real person. There's a poem that's been around a very, very long time, and supposedly it was about a lady who lived in Scotland, and that she felt she had nothing of value left, and that when the nurses that were taking care of her went through her possessions, they found this poem, and they were so impressed with it that they had posted it, and it ended up every year in the Christmas edition of the North Ireland Association for Mental Health. So you may have heard this, but in case you haven't, it's definitely worth repeating. It's called An Old Lady's Poem. Now, we don't know that this person may or may not have had dementia, but if she was an older lady, the chances are that she did, because about 50% of people age 85 and older do have some form of dementia. So I'm going to read this poem, and you can decide for yourself what you think. What do you see? What do you see? What are you thinking when you're looking at me? A crabby old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply. When you say in a loud voice, I do wish you'd try, who seems not to notice the things that you do and forever is losing a stocking or a shoe, who, resisting or not, lets you do as you will, with bathing and feeding, the long day to fill. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes. You're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I sit here so still, as I do at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a small child of 10, with a father and a mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16 with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon now a lover she'll meet. A bride soon at 20, my heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25 now, I have young of my own, who need me to guide and a secure, happy home. A woman of 30, my young now grown fast, bound to each other with ties that should last. At 40, my young sons have grown and are gone, but my man's beside me to see I don't mourn. At 50, once more, babies play around my knee. Again we know children, my loved one and me. Dark days are upon me, my husband is dead. I look at the future, I shudder with dread. For my young are all rearing young of their own, and I think of the years and the love that I've known. I'm now an old woman, and nature is cruel. 'Tis just to make old age look like a fool. The body, it crumbles, grace and vigor depart. There is now a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass a young girl still dwells, and now and again my battered heart swells. I remember the joys, I remember the pain, and I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years, all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, open and see, not a crabby old woman, look closer, it's me. And I love that poem. Every time I read it, I think about people that getting older, and especially ones that have dementia. Sometimes they're really physically looking in the mirror and they can see the reflection, and the reflection doesn't match who in their mind they are. And they see the wrinkles, and they see the gray hair, and they see the sad eyes, and they wonder, who is that person in the mirror? Certainly it's not me. That's an old person, and I'm still either in my 20s or 40s or 50s, because when people with dementia, they relive their life and they really forget about time and place, and they forget about all kinds of things that would ground them into the present. And so they live in the past. And this lady has lived in the past and remembered everything that she had done from all of her ages going up. And so she wanted us to know that she's not a crabby old woman. She had a life. She lived her life. She went through the same types of happiness and pains and sadness that we all do. And so I think that gives us a little bit of insight into a person that's older and has dementia, that, we need to respect and realize that, one day we're going to get there too. And one day we're going to need people to see us not as a crabby old person, but as a person who had a life and who had a value in the world. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thanks.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help, because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides. You are listening to your host, Marcia Teele, an Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info Show. I'm glad that you've joined us today. We're talking about reflecting on our caregiving. And this is the last week of the year, and this is when we are celebrating the holidays, and we all wish for joy and peace and happiness. And we can find it even in the hard times, even in the sad times. The whole thing is to be grateful, and I think, caregiving is one of the hardest things that you can do, and it can make us sad, it can make us depressed, it can make us angry, it gives us all kinds of feelings. But looking for the blessings, looking for the good things, looking for the good outcomes, and if we look at our life and we become more grateful for the things that we have noticed, and more grateful for even the ability to be a caregiver, more grateful to people that come into our lives. Everybody comes into our life for a reason. They say a reason or a season. And so there's a reason that you cross paths with somebody. They may stay a short time, they may stay a long time. But the persons that are in your life, be grateful. Yes, maybe you lost a loved one this year, but maybe, you gained a new friend. So you just be grateful, and I think that we can all go into the new year with a new attitude of gratitude, and with hope and with faith and with trust. And so with that being said, I just want to quickly end today with this last poem, since we've been doing poems. And you may have heard this one. It's called The Dash. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on her tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of her birth and spoke of the following date with tears. But he said that mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time that she spent alive on earth. And now only those who loved her know what little that line is worth. It matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can be rearranged. If we could just slow down to consider what's true and real, and always try to understand the way other people feel, and be less quick to anger and show appreciation more, and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy's being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? I want to thank you all for being so supportive of the show for the last 6-7 years. Thank you for tuning in this year. I hope you continue to watch. We'll be back next Tuesday, 6:00 p.m. on caregiversolutions.info. You can watch us live stream or on the iHeartRadio app under WNN. Thank you for everything. Thank you for sharing the show with others, and for ordering the book and sharing that with others too. I hope you all have a happy, healthy new year, and we'll see you in the next new year. So take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly